Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Today's guest is Steve Trax. He's the head of MAI Sports and Entertainment and the regional president at MAI. He joined the firm in 2019 after the acquisition of his firm MTX Wealth Management. Steve has 30 years of experience in the financial service industry, developing value-added financial planning strategies to the firm's elite group of professional athletes and high-net-worth clients. Get ready to learn about athlete investments, if NFTs and cryptocurrencies are good investments, Steve's journey through sport, and much more. Steve Trax, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It's good to be here.
It's great to talk to you. How are you doing this morning for you, I guess?
Well, I'm doing good. It's a Friday here in the DC area in the States. Weather's good. We're working through getting some of our clients' final tax returns done. So always a busy time, but things are great. Thanks.
Sounds good. Always nice to be Friday.
Yes, it is. That's right.
So your role is that you are the head of MIA Sports and Entertainment and also the regional president. So what does that role include? And if you can tell us a little bit about the company.
Yeah, sure. So let me start with MAI Capital Management. So we're positioned as a registered investment advisor, an RIA, and the unique quality that brings to the table is that we have a fiduciary responsibility to take our clients' needs and interest first. So I think that's, extremely important in terms of approach to the market. As a firm, we have our home office in Cleveland, Ohio. We have 20 offices nationwide. I happen to sit in Northern Virginia, just south of Washington, D.C., in a town called Reston. From a client perspective, we have, I think, over 6,000 clients. We have, I think, 350 employees. We're managing about 15 billion, somewhere in that neighborhood, of investment assets for clients. On a regional basis, I have a team of 11 here in Reston, Virginia. We have about 150 clients, manage close to 600 to 650 million in assets under management. And from a kind of a responsibility perspective, I think I have 3 seats. The most important seat I hold is really helping to manage the financial lives of our clients. And that's something that I enjoy most. So number one, I'm a client advisor. We'll continue to do that. Secondarily, I do have not only office responsibility here in Northern Virginia, I also have regional management responsibility. So we've got 3 other offices in the Mid-Atlantic region that I help to oversee. Now we've got other folks who have helped to drive those businesses over time. And so I'm really there from a management perspective to help support them, help us to work together more collaboratively, that kind of thing. But that's my second responsibility. And then last, on a national basis, is I'm managing our sports and entertainment vertical that has 6 office locations. So we have 6 out of the 20 that actually actively serve professional athletes and entertainers. And so I'm charged with managing that group of offices, individuals, and helping once again to support and assist those offices in their daily jobs.
Sounds like you have a lot on your plate.
A lot going on. Yes, sir.
That's great. Talking about how you assist athletes, you mentioned tax returns. I assume it also you advise them on maybe investments. Can you tell a little bit more about that aspect?
Yeah. So professional athletes are a unique client. And at some point, Marcus, I can walk you through kind of how I got here. But from a servicing perspective, we really run a family office service approach. And so many people define family office differently. I think for us, especially with a professional athlete with their unique need, we really are doing any and everything that they need from a financial perspective. And so 2 key components of that service delivery. One we would call the wealth management or family office component, which is where we're helping these clients to manage their cash flow. So we're helping them and assisting them in setting up their banking structures. We're establishing budgets for them. Obviously, we want them very engaged in the process. because, every budget is broken. Every budget is not the exact same of what you kind of from the very beginning planned that to be. But that's an important part of especially managing an athlete. Many of them are very young. So part of that is education. So we take that piece very seriously as well. We got to educate our clients. We always like to say, Marcus, we want our clients to be the smartest guys in the locker room. And we love to have other teammates coming to them to ask questions, seek advice, that kind of thing. So, education being big, risk management, really for anyone, but for a professional athlete, a little bit different nuance there, but important for us to make sure that they're working really hard on the field, on the court to grow their wealth. And our job is to help them to preserve it and protect it. And so risk management helps us to do that, meaning helping them with their insurance coverages, taxes, important part. And I think something that we have a lot of experience doing. We prepare the majority of our athlete clients' returns in-house. There is an expertise to doing that. And so that's not only filing returns, but that's also the planning work in and around that. And that could be a client's first contract, a client's endorsement contract. There's a lot of nuances related to the tax side. State income tax planning strategies are extremely important. So tax being a big piece of that. Estate planning. So that's the transfer side of tax, but making sure, most importantly, that once again, clients are working hard to grow their wealth and attain this wealth. We want to make sure that they're driving the direction of where that might go. God forbid something were to happen to them or their family. And I think lastly, really helping them with anything that comes up on the financial side. So helping clients to obtain mortgages, lines of credit, buy cars, buy houses, sell cars, sell houses, negotiate listing agreements, reviewing sales agreements, lease agreements, you name it. So I always like to say kind of an A to Z plus approach on that side. And then a byproduct, if you're doing a good job of helping them to save as much as they can, is to put together a consistent strategy for them that they're, aware of, educated on, and help to have some involvement in developing an investment strategy that's suitable for them.
And yes, athletes are employees as well, but they are very unusual employees in the way that if you are very good, usually you make a lot of money in an early age. And then also you retire early. So I guess the pension plan and saving and stuff is a lot different from someone who works the regular, pension, 65 years old and so on.
That's right. I mean, their career earnings are always in a very short period of time. And I always like to say to clients, like, listen, we're planning for a lifetime, but there's a lot that they can't control. So let's control the controllables, because injury, other things they can't control, can really close that out quickly. We've seen that with some. So, the idea is we plan on what we have on paper. We don't think about kind of that future as it relates to building a solid plan for them initially. We want to consider it down the road, but really focused on taking advantage of what they have today.
The last couple of years, there have been new investment opportunities, specifically digital ones. I'm thinking about NFTs, crypto, and so on. Is that something that you take into consideration as well, or is it still like real estate is the best, long-term investment? So,
yeah. So I would say this, with NFTs, we've been more on the side with our clients of them participating in NFTs being established for them that we're taking to market. So we're involved kind of on the front end of that process. In terms of our clients investing their dollars in NFTs, that's not something that I think across the board we're doing a whole lot of. I think it's a relatively new asset class. I think there's a lot to learn about it. And so while we taken advantage of it, I think, Marcus, on the revenue side, from the investment side, I think it's been a very small piece of what we're doing. When it comes to crypto, digital currencies, I just saw this morning as I'm, getting up early, having my cup of coffee, that there was once again another crypto business or group of wallets that had been hacked and hundreds of millions of dollars were lost again. My view, and I think our firm view on crypto, is it's not a specific asset class that we are working with clients on, or that is a part of our strategic investment strategy at this point. I think we're continuing to do a lot of work on that. We do have a lot of young clients who are very interested in it. And so we will help them, establish an outlet, a way to do that, but for a very small piece of their portfolio. And really, I look at it as a learning opportunity for them to better understand that asset class. Because if you look at that investment, if that's what you can call it, it just seems to be very much trend motivated, a lot of supply and demand, a lot of technical factors to that market. And so clients are going to want to participate. They're talking about it, Marcus, in the locker rooms all the time. And so we need to be educated on it, and we want to educate our clients, but it's not something that we've actively invested in as a firm.
And interesting what you said with the NFTs, that you are doing it more from a revenue perspective. Just to understand how that works, is it that you're taking like a moment of that player from a game or a picture from a game and then create an NFT out of that for them to earn revenue on?
So generally speaking, we're having groups coming to us with an idea about maybe one of some of those that you mentioned relative to a client. We have a handful of clients that are high level relative to their notoriety and fame. And we'll have groups come to us, and we're really in a position where we're reviewing that opportunity. We're making sure from a legal perspective, our clients are well protected, and then negotiating terms and participation in the success of that NFT. And that's broad based. And I would once again say that's probably only for a dozen of our clients that have participated in that market. But we like the idea of getting paid and generating revenue at this point versus actually investing in the NFT itself. I think that market is still very green, a lot to learn about it. And I do think that there's opportunity there, but I think we always want to make sure we understand all of that prior to making a recommendation or suggestion to our broad client base.
What other type of investments would you say that is common among athletes, or the ones that you recommend for many athletes?
Well, I think, one of the important things to think about is, at least now, and I've been involved in the athlete side of the business for close to 25 years, really approach the athlete client as trying to build an enterprise for them. And part of that enterprise is what they do day to day on the field, on the court. And our job is to help them kind of continue to build that enterprise. And a lot of athlete clients are very interested in establishing their own businesses. They're very interested in, it's an interesting dynamic, because about 15% of our overall client base, Marcus, is the professional athlete and entertainer. The other 85%, the majority, is that high net worth entrepreneur, executive, business owner. Athletes love to invest alongside of those high end business owners and get unique access to product. Well, those business owners and entrepreneurs also love to invest alongside of athletes. And so within our business, that's a very interesting dynamic, and one that we are building, I call kind of an ecosystem relative to our clients, to introduce them to one another, athlete and entrepreneur, business owner. And what that has created is some really interesting investment opportunities. So I think when we look at an overall investment strategy or structure or game plan, we'll call it, for athletes, really boil it down to 4 simple categories: cash, equities, where you're an owner, fixed income, where you're a loaner, and then alternatives. All of our clients have and do participate in all 4 of those asset classes. I think athletes enjoy the alternative piece, private real estate, private equity, those unique deals and deal flow. And given the clientele we have, given, I think, our leverage in the market based on our size, we're getting a lot of deal flow coming to us that we are then able to scale, across the board, not only with our athlete clients, but also with our entrepreneurial high net worth clientele.
Is it more common nowadays for athletes to wanting to have equity instead of making like just a regular like sponsorship deal? I'm thinking about Roger Federer and Shaquille O'Neal and former athletes and athletes like this that I've heard a lot about. They want equity in companies as well.
They do. And I think it speaks to what we were just talking about, that interest in those alternatives, because that's where I would place that. Always a point of conversation when we're approached with a sponsorship endorsement deal. Yes, there's an income component to it, But some of these are startups and some of them are relatively interesting in a really hot market or hot sector, or a place where, our particular client could really enhance some awareness relative to that business. And so, yes, I think negotiating, I personally like to have a component of each. Love to get that income and guarantee that as much as we can over the term of the deal. But then I think the clients are also very interested in having some equity and participating in that. A lot of our clients have been involved in numerous business where they've done extremely well relative to the equity piece of that. And then they can also, Marcus, help to drive it, spending time relative to the branding, the endorsements, et cetera. And I think that's something that off the court field they enjoy doing.
And I'm sure from your perspective, the athletes really appreciate, your help and input, since they want to focus all of their energy on the field and then taking the help from you. And maybe also, I'm generalizing now, but maybe you don't go through the whole university studies sometimes when you're an athlete, that you have focused on your sport. So can you really see that your services come in handy for these athletes, for them to be able to focus all of their energy on their sport?
Absolutely. And I think, Marcus, one of our value add strategies, I think, and what we bring to the table is just that. We want that client to have comfort and peace of mind, knowing that they can spend the majority of their time doing what they do and do it to the best of their ability, which clearly is going to provide them a lot of job satisfaction, career satisfaction, but in addition to that, get rewarded financially. And our job is to handle all the other factors on the financial side. And candidly, we also get involved in a lot of the personal issues with their families. Just our approach to servicing is very personal. And so I think we were talking about, building that enterprise for a client. And so a component of that is allowing them to do their job and doing it very well. And I always like to use, a couple simple analogies is, we stand beside our clients because we work with them. We're on the same side of the table based on our approach to the market. It's objective, it's fiduciary, but we're working with them, right, as a gatekeeper, call it a financial quarterback, to help develop those strategies, to educate them, help provide some discipline. So we're acting as a coach in a lot of respects. So we sit beside them in that regard. We stand beside them when the lights come on, because that's when they do their best. But we're there still to guide them and be part of that team. And then when things get difficult, we stand in front of them. And that's when we're there to protect and preserve what they work so hard for. But we've also built strategies in and around doing that. So the idea really is for us to take care of all of that, with them having buy-in, them having awareness, and us educating them along the way in terms of their overall strategy. And each one of them is different.
Yeah, I'm sure. And on that point, does it differ when you advise clients depending on the sport?
It can be different. Their pay structures are a little bit different. One of the things that we've seen in sport here over the last couple of years, I'll just compare hockey. You and I were talking about that previously, to basketball. Some of our best hockey clients are earning $11, $12 million a year. And an NBA client could be playing 12 minutes out of 48 and scoring 6 points and getting 5 rebounds and getting paid the same. And so a lot of that's driven by the TV revenue relative to those sports and other ways for those sports to make money. And so the cash flow is much different. In terms of lifestyle, I think there's clearly some differences. You see that culturally, you see that within sport, but every client's, no different than you and I. They're an individual. And so they're going to have their own individual circumstance, their own individual needs that, we clearly need to address. But differences in sport kind of add to that for sure.
I'm sure. Before we get to know a little bit more about your career journey, is there anything else regarding MIA that you do that you would like to mention?
Well, I think we talked a good bit about just our overall business. As I look at it on the sports side, that's the majority of what I do today. 70% of our business here in Reston is working with a professional athlete. I think, three main things, that I think about are, our experience level. We've got a tremendous team. As I said, Marcus, I've been working in the sports entertainment side of finance for 23 years. I've got 5 other colleagues who have spent as much time or more. And so our level of experience in terms of working with this unique client. From my seat, I see no other that has that level. I think number two, we built the business by and for is what I like to say. So we built it by, meaning that the client helped us to define this unique need. And that's how we built that service platform to meet the needs of the client, right? That's the key. And four, meaning we've also used our experience and our technical training. We all know that, managing finance for an individual is, there's a lot to it and it's evolving. And so we use that experience, as well to take care of that. And I think the last piece and a differentiator for us is the way we service a client, the team approach, the personal care and attention. It is a personal business and we do need to make a strong connection with our client. We need to be able to tell these clients what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. That's not our job, but we do it respectfully. In the end, I like to say client owns the team. They make the final call, make the final decision. And our job as a general manager and coach is to provide discipline, structure, education around it. And then once we define what our strategy is, or our game plan is for life, then we put those necessary pieces around them to make sure we can meet those goals.
This episode is sponsored by InSport Education, the online business school for sport. They offer a range of different courses, for example, Foundations of Sport Business, Private Equity in Sport, and much, much more. As a listener to this podcast, you get 10% off all of their courses using the code SportsManagementPodcast10. Click the link in the description below and sign up today. Talking about you, how were you introduced to the sports industry, and if you can walk us through your journey up until where we are today?
Yeah, mine's interesting, and it's been a windy road to some degree. But Marcus, I'll start. I'll give you the end game. I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. And so if you rewind that, I was a college athlete myself. I played college basketball at the D1 level. I had 6 teammates who went on to play in the NBA. And I played overseas for a couple summers myself. And so, as I sat in that locker room and got to know my teammates and worked through, great times and difficult times, you kind of understand, having been an athlete, I think you always are an athlete, but you understand the mentality, the mind of an athlete, understand what their needs are, how they can be trusting too soon. So having a trusted advisor who's well educated and can help them work through this process to, as I like to tell all of our clients, let's make sure we use the game. Don't let the game use us, right? So let's take advantage of the opportunity to the extent we can to maximize that opportunity. So, as a college athlete and having that experience myself with teammates, always thought I love serving people. I love working with numbers and I love sports. And wow, how interesting would it be to be in a position where I could do that for this select group. And so I ended up double majoring in accounting and finance out of school. So using the game, don't let the game use me, right? Got a college scholarship, but the idea there is let's get an education. Yes, I want a great experience, but let's get an education. Following that, spent 10 years in public accounting with 2 large firms, Price Waterhouse and then Arthur Andersen, and then jumped out into the sports side of finance, which was my passion. But I always felt like I needed to make sure that I was investing in myself. And when I made that transition, that I was in a position where I could advise them at a fairly high level. So after 10 years, I took an opportunity with a local sports agency here in DC that focused on the basketball side, worked there for 8 years. And then in the fall of 2007, set up my own business, MTX Wealth Management. I purchased 80% of what was the financial service division of that agency, set up my own business, and then ran and owned and operated that for just about 14 years before I joined MAI in June of 2019.
That's very interesting. Was MIA acquiring your firm? Was that how it went, or?
Yeah. So they had an existing sports group within their overall business. And at the time had 4 individuals who were managing client relationships, but had not really kind of pulled this together, as our CEO, Rick Benacourt, would say, as a managed business or part of the overall business. And so, they talked to me, as early as, the fall of 2017 in and around my business and theirs on that side and combining forces. And so, ultimately we did make that decision, which has been a great one for our clients, first and foremost, for my team here and for us, from a go forward perspective.
Yeah. It must feel great, as you said, that you work with exactly what you want to do. I mean, it's not a lot of people who can say that.
No, I think you're right, Marcus, but I also think, and I go back to my high school, DeMatha High School in Maryland, go back to my college, Old Dominion, and speak to teams and athletes and even other students in and around my experience. I think, the key there is having an end game and having a goal. I mean, it's no different now as a professional, very similar to being an athlete. You have goals. And so it's not always a straight line. And I think you need to, constantly think about every day getting better. And so I just had that mentality, and there was a grind mentality to educate myself, get myself in a position where I could provide value to this group of clients, given my experience. You kind of pull all that together. People like to say, man, Steve, you're lucky. And I say, thank you. And they kind of look at me oddly. And I say, well, luck to me is when preparation meets opportunity. And so for me, fortunately, I've been able to have those opportunities to take advantage of, but it doesn't come without being prepared for it.
That's for sure. Has there been any bumps on the road?
Bumps in the road. So, listen, I think one of those interesting things, I think initially, as I'm kind of thinking through here, my career, when I jumped out of school and I had this accounting degree, and I went from, being a college athlete on a campus to sitting in a cube, working alongside of other professionals, that was kind of an aha moment, Marcus, to be honest with you. So bump in the road, or was it, oh my God, what am I doing here? Is this something I've spent all this time studying? Is this something that's really going to make sense for me? So that was interesting. And I think my years in public accounting, Marcus, I like to say, great experience, but I was underpaid, overworked, and overexposed. And the last one's the most important one. Once again, right? Make sure every day you're trying to make yourself better in some way, right? Professionally, as a person, et cetera. Those 10 years, there were a lot of bumps in the road. I think there were a lot of times where I questioned whether I wanted to be there, needed to be there. And I think ultimately having the mindset of, hey, that's my goal. This is what I'm working towards. And it's not always going to be a straight line. There's going to be some back and forth, which sometimes I think younger folks today don't appreciate as much. They want things to come much quicker. But my public experience was a really good one, for me, in terms of building character and understanding and really preparing me to do what I do today. Once I got in the sports side of finance, I feel like I was built to do this, not only from an experience perspective, but also from a personality perspective. I think it's been relatively easy from that point forward, because I felt like, I'm where I need to be and where I should be.
And it's so much when you have that clear goal, you have something to work against, and then maybe, the hurdles and stuff, you can see the end goal. But I think a lot of people, they don't know their end goal.
I would agree with that. And I think that's a challenge. And so I think, if you don't have that longer term goal, if I'm thinking about that, I have a goal every day. I have a list of things I'd like to get done. Of course, clients will call and I'll maybe get 3 out of 15 done because I'm helping them to do something that came up during the day. But I think then you just need to kind of reduce your scope there and your time frame and just say, hey, let me be the best at what I can be today in my role, do the best that I can do to attain certain goals from an annual perspective. And then I think just continue to look at other opportunities. I tell them I have 2 boys, they're 20 and 18, and both of them, I say to them, I want you to find your passion. I want you to find something that you really like doing. Because if you really like to do it, you'll spend the time on it. And if you spend the time on it, you're going to get pretty good at it. And if you're good at it, then I think number one, you'll have some job satisfaction, which I think is most important, and you'll help people, which is extremely important. And then the byproduct of that could be you get rewarded financially if that's important to you, right? So I think you're right. I think for many professionals and others who may not have that kind of end game in mind, and I do think it's a dynamic process. I think it changes over time. Not that I thought differently along the way, because I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. The question was, how do I get there? Right. So I did some of that blocking and tackling as well. And I just think you just got to keep at it.
You had your passion and you said you need to find your passion. Could a financial objective be a passion?
I think it can be. I was at a conference on the sports side with internally with our group. And as we're going around introducing ourselves, I said something that my wife kind of chuckled about. I said to them, I go, I'm not motivated by finance. I am motivated as a business owner by the box score. And I like to see our revenue grow and our earnings grow. But I've never been motivated by the finance and the money. But I do think many people are, and that's not a bad thing. And I think you can be motivated by that. I think what I see more often, Marcus, is many who focus on the financial and they don't think about the passion, or they don't think enough about a job or a career that would fit kind of their goals that I think are above and beyond finance, kind of their passion for what they want to do in life. So I think you can do both. I think for me, I followed my passion. I mean, I always did that as a young boy. I was passionate about wanting to be a college basketball player. And so I just figured out ways to get there and get help and coaching, etc. And so for me, I feel as though that's been extremely helpful. And the financial side of it's just been a byproduct.
Yeah, I would argue the same, that of course it might be important, but I think that if you aiming towards the financial aspects and you don't really have the passion, then it will not be sustainable in the long run. I think you need to have a passion for it. And then, of course, who doesn't like money, right?
Yeah, I think you can also end up unfulfilled. So for me, the most fulfilling part of my career to date is how I've helped my clients. That to me is what makes me feel good at the end of the day. When I'm spending time with clients and even my team, helping to mentor them and guide them, those are the days for me that are the best.
How would you describe your leadership style?
I always fall back on my sports experience, and I'll sit in our conference room when we have our monthly staff meeting. So I've got a team of 12 here, and I manage it much like a coach would. And it's a team approach for sure. I always tell people, let's leave the me outside the door and bring in the we, because it's about us collectively. And when I draw our organizational chart, I have the client at the top and the rest of us beneath that. It's not about me being a regional president and head of the sports group and running this office. I'm their colleague. I'm not their boss. So my management style is very much directed towards the end game, which is, serving that client. And I'm working alongside of them. And so when I bring folks into the office here, even post-COVID, I have kind of two requirements. One is, listen, I require people to be in the office 4 to 5 days. And the reason I do that is I think we do a better job to serve the client in a collaborative team approach. I think it's also from a mental health perspective, I think it's better for my team. I mean, my team has been happier being in the office, getting that social interaction, working together as a team. I'm not setting up a Zoom to figure out, a planning strategy. I'm walking down the hall and we're having a direct meeting. I'm big on kind of eye-to-eye contact and shaking somebody's hand. And so, I think my approach also has been collaborative in the sense, Marcus, that I love for people to throw a stake in the ground. I can't manage this team effectively if I don't know what you're thinking. And so I want to know what you're thinking. I can't guarantee you that everything that you bring to the table that we're going to execute on or implement right away, but I do want your input as it relates to the overall process. So I think team approach is a key factor in my management style.
I like that. And also I'm a big believer in that sports in general teaches you a lot on leadership and teamwork and overcoming adversity, building characters. Like it gives you so much that can be implemented also in the business world.
No, I agree 100% with you. I think you learn how to fail. And I think we learn to be successful through our failures. There's no question about that. Sports gives you a great opportunity to fail and learn from it, which I think is really, really helpful. I think I've been a big believer that with my children and their participation in sports, I think sometimes, sidebar comment, parents just get too busy trying to live out their dreams with their kids versus looking at sports as a way to develop, as you said, character and work through those life situations that will help them. And I think, I like to hire former athletes. I think they got a different view on things. They got a different perspective. They're not afraid to fail. They're used to working together as a team. And Marcus, listen, I've been a sixth man and I've been a starter. I've been the third option and I've been the first option on teams I've played in. And so I think that's really helpful to you if you carry those experiences into your professional life and even your personal life.
Are your kids playing basketball as well?
Well, they did. So they played through high school. Youngest played football, lacrosse, and basketball, and oldest played lacrosse and basketball. But now my oldest has a God-given ability in music. And so he's at High Point University in North Carolina, sings on an a cappella group. I mean, amazing. He taught himself how to play the drums and the piano. And so that's been interesting. But I think he's learned a lot of, I'll call it those life skills relative in sport, and applied that not only to music now in college, but also, education. And then my youngest is a freshman at Tennessee, and he played lacrosse and basketball in high school as well. And I see those same kind of building blocks and learning experiences being applied for him in his freshman year of college.
Approaching the end of the interview, is there something that I haven't mentioned so far that you would like to bring up?
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I think we've covered some ground relative to our firm, MAI Capital Management. I'm a big believer in what we're doing. And I say that not only in terms of our service platform, but I think most importantly, it's the people that we have in our organization. So that's been great. I think we've walked and talked through some of the nuances of a professional athlete. I think one of the things that I've realized over time, Marcus, having been involved in finance for over 30 years and close to 25 of that with athletes and entertainers, the lifestyle of an athlete and entertainer is unhealthy, to be honest with you. It's not a normal type of lifestyle. And I think a lot of the public believes that, wow, there's glitz and glamour and there's so much pomp and circumstance surrounded around what they do. Managing that day-to-day life on a personal level and a financial level, there's a lot of complexity to it. And that's what we really work hard to help, take that complex scenario and make it simple. But then even harder for an athlete and entertainer, we didn't talk about this, was the transition out of. And that's an area that we are focused on as a firm to help guide and direct these clients, even from a standpoint of young athlete clients that we're dealing with, having them talk about, hey, what are you going to do when someone takes that ball away from you? Because most likely someone will take it away from you versus you deciding not to do that. But I think, in general, our job is to help them work through all aspects of that career in their life. And I think sometimes the public doesn't quite understand, the difficulty tied to that. And then the transition out of sport into a normal way of life can be difficult for them.
The exit strategy is interesting because on the one hand, you want to have a plan for the future. On the other hand, maybe if you're thinking too much about that, maybe you have one foot outside of your sport and you still want to perform in your sport.
Right. So our job, Marcus, great point, is to keep them focused, on the here and now and this year and their goals on the field. And then our goal is we're seeing what we have on paper to work with, right? They're helping us to build that game plan for life. But then our job, our expertise, right, is really to help them see down the road, whether they're out of their sport at age 30 or 35 or 40. It's still at a very young point in their overall life. They've got another 50 years that they need to provide for. And that could be them, that could be their family. And so that's our job, is to try and help them stay focused and give them peace of mind to know that I'm going to handle this. And I know Steve and his team will help me not only handle this day to day, but also see down the road relative to a strategy that makes sense for me, not only short term, but long term.
Yeah, very interesting and important for sure.
Yes, sir.
The last question that I ask everyone is, if you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think that I should talk to?
Have you had athletes, any active athletes, and maybe even, suggestion might be to get some retired athletes, if you can, and have them talk about their experience, if it's working with someone like myself or an attorney or accountant or someone else that they've worked with. I think that'd be an interesting one. And another one, the trend that we're seeing, Marcus, is a lot of athletes are interested in investing in sports franchises and sports teams. And so to the extent you could have someone maybe on that sell side, or who is involved in approaching the athlete market or advisors like us, we have, I think, about 6 or 8 clients who are actively working through those kinds of opportunities. I think that'd be an interesting topic and one that's noteworthy because I think it's trending at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I will look into that. I think that's interesting. Steve Trax, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
You got it, Marcus. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.